Hey, it's Nootsie, and today I want to talk to you about life after an awakening. It truly is my most favorite thing in the whole wide world to talk about because it has so dramatically changed every aspect of my life and every fiber of my being. So I'm going to endeavor to begin to explain what it's like after having an awakening and then how I have maintained being on that path and tools that have worked and things that I would recommend that you avoid. And so I do want to say this. I feel like an awakening is not a one-off experience. Like we just have this awakening experience and then we're awakened the rest of our life. I've come to believe and be acquainted with the fact that, that's just the beginning of the practice and the work of being awakened. And then also that I'm not special or chosen to have this awakening and other people are not. I think by the very nature of us having this earth suit and living on this big blue ball in the universe causes us to all be chosen and to all be special and to all have the ability and the opportunity to be awakened. And so I was like, okay, I need a word picture so I can describe to people what it was like before I had it and then what it has been like since. And so I had this word picture dropped into my heart, and it was as if I was standing there in my desperation, like that deer panting after the water. My soul was panting after connecting to the divine because I just felt my life force was escaping me, if you've watched my other videos. And out of that digging deep on the inside of my soul, I became aware that there is a river of life that it's talked about in Revelations 22:1. It says he became aware of the river of life, or the river of life was shown to him. And if you study that out, that means the river of life is having your life animated by God's existence. And so in my desperation of wanting to touch the hem of his garment, I suddenly became aware that there was this river or fountain of life flowing in front of me. And I just jumped in head first and became immersed in that river of life. And it is available to all of us. And there are practices that we can do and things that we can do that will help open our awareness. Like if you hear awakening, I really feel like is just having my awareness expanded. So I want to talk a little bit about what breath work and the beginning experiences that I had with the breath work and how it has affected me. I want to talk about breath work from a biological, physiological, scientific perspective for just a minute. So breath work is very, very popular, and there is a lot of information out there. Like Wim Hof, he has a great app and he does a great job of explaining what it does to the body and what he's been able to accomplish with the breath work. There's lots of research, there's many books, there's tons of YouTube videos. But from a biological perspective, we breathe about 26,000 breaths a day. And so depending on whether you breathe in and out of your nose, in and out of your mouth, in your nose, out your mouth, shallow, deep, same amount in, same amount out, has a great deal to do with how your body reacts and how healthy it is. So if we're shallow breathers, what happens is it turns our body, or it mechanically causes our body to be in fight, flight, or freeze. So I had never been exposed to breath work. And when I went to the Dr. Joe Niagara Falls week-long event, that was my first exposure to breath work. So before I had my awakening and before I had the interaction with the blue beings and the fractals and got my healings, he taught us how to do breath work. And so what happened is you sit on the edge of your chair, you have a blanket out in front of you, your hands are on your knees, and he goes through how to pull up that energy from your sacrum all the way through the body up to the brain. Well, clearly I had been doing a lot of shallow breathing because the first few times I did it, I couldn't get that energy all the way up to my brain. When I finally did, I literally was like, woof, woof, and I fell out. And so listening to his teachings, I realized that, I needed to pull that energy out of the fight, flight, or freeze mode and get it up into my brain. And so I really began to realize that it is the secret sauce that has opened up the mystical and the healing to me. And so I go home and I'm super committed to doing the breath work. And the condition that I was in was a little bit precarious in the regard is there's no 1-800 awakening number you can call. There's not a 1-800 Kundalini. There's not even very many people who I could find to talk to me about it. There were a few. My friend David was kind enough when I was having a moment, he would talk to me. And then also my husband was amazing when I would get up at 3:30 to go upstairs to do the breath work, and I would tell him about these experiences. He would help me work through it and never judge me and never say that I was having something wrong or evil or unnatural. So I came home and it was as if, have you seen those movies where a bomb goes off, like a war movie, and the person where the bomb went off around them, it's like they can hear people talking on the outside world, but it's kind of muffled and it's slowed down, and their thoughts are slow and they can really only hear what's going on in their brain. It was like that for me. It's like everything had slowed down, and I was so committed to doing the breath work. So I would go upstairs, I would get on my little ottoman, I would sit on the edge, I'd put my hands on my knees, and I would just, I'd pull that breath day after day up into my brain. And then I began to realize through these interactions with these divine beings that I needed to do some inversion poses and some inversion breath. And so I began to do some breath work on this big blue ball. And I would have these 4 beings, these white beings clothed in white robes, that one would grab my head, and as I would do the breath work, they would blow on my brain, and I could literally see the neurons that were connected. As they would breathe on my brain, they would cool down. They would turn like a icy white bluish color, and it would cool down my brain because I was in horrific fight, flight, or freeze mode my entire life. And so one morning I was sitting on the blue ball and I was getting ready to do breath work, and it was early, and I was thinking to myself, I just thought, I wonder if God does breath work. And at that moment, I heard with my entire being, every fiber of my being, every cell of my being, every atom heard this voice say, I am breath. And as it said that, my cells started to go zzz, 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 zzz. My hair follicles, my skin, my circulation, the beings around me, and the breath of God passed through me. And at the same time, I breathed, and the beings breathed, and the universe breathed, and the earth breathed, and it expanded my awareness. And it created in me this awareness that it talks about in Romans 8:19, that all creation is eagerly anticipating, is how it says, the revealing of the likeness or the uncovering of the likeness of God. And so I began to have these experiences with trees and wind and bugs and cows and grass and humans. All of creation became alive, or maybe not became alive, or it gave me an awareness that all of creation is alive. And there's biblical teachings and ancient traditions and creationism and science that talks about this singularity or this substance that runs through all of creation. And it was like it all became animated to me, like I really was in that river, and the presence of God began to be revealed to me in every area. And so day after day, I have been doing the breath work, and I feel like it is the secret sauce that has helped me maintain these mystical, magical magic carpet ride or maybe red carpet ride that I am on. And it has evolved over time, and I want to continue to share how my breath work has evolved, but I want to get back to my experience. So when I got home in September, I was blown wide open. I was having these mystical, magical experiences, and I really had to begin to dig into other people's work to find out like what is going on with me. And so from September to December, I just was doing the breath work every day, sometimes a couple times a day. I was getting these insights. I was having these mystical experiences. And in December, I had my call with the Heart Math Institute. Because when I was at the Niagara week-long, I signed up to have the heart rate variability sensor on me. And then in December, I got to talk to Dr. Carla, who works for Heart Math and works for Dr. Joe. And so she was going to talk to me on the phone for an hour and tell me what she found, or what they found was the reading while having this heart rate variability monitor on. So when I talked to her, she was saying that I was very much shallow breathing in and then breathing out longer, which is like a panting type breath, which causes the body to stay into fight, flight, or freeze. And it was a really enlightening conversation, and it really had me dive in to the Heart Math Institute and their heart-brain coherence breath. And I'm going to list some videos and some other things below that you can start to look at if you're interested. But what she had me do, in addition to my breath work that I was doing in the morning, she suggested that I put on this certain song, put my headphones on, and at night before I go to bed for 20 minutes, breathe in for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds and breathe out for the same amount of time. And so what would happen to me is I would literally start crying for whatever reason, because I think I was, for the first time ever, getting my body out of stress mode, trauma mode. And so during that time, I had a memory come back to me of the healing that I had at Niagara Falls. And so after I had this stuff pulled out of me by these angelic beings, I went through this wormhole and I went all the way back to when I was in my mother's womb. And I knew that I was born premature very early, but I didn't know the circumstances surrounding it. And so when I went through this wormhole, I was in my mother's womb, and I was aware of this circumstance that happened. My mom and dad, my mom was 7 months pregnant, and my mom and dad were at a dinner dance, and they were dancing. And my dad was dancing with this woman, and apparently it was upsetting to my mom, so she cut in, and she became aware that my dad was aroused by dancing with this woman. And here I am, I'm aware of what's happening. I'm in my mother's womb, but I'm also aware of what my mom is thinking, and I'm aware of what's going on with my dad. And so they got into it, and my dad very roughly, let's just say, pulled my mom off the dance floor, out of the country club, into the car. They had an altercation, and I was born shortly after that. So no wonder I couldn't have a bowel movement when I was born. I was born prematurely, but I was born in stress mode. I was clamped down in my first energy center. And so as I began to do the heart rate variability breathing, I was causing my body for the first time in 50 some years to relax. And so the breath work has literally become my secret sauce to my healing, to my awakening. And I'm going to begin to share tools that I feel like have been very helpful, and how my breath work has evolved. And I'm going to put videos down below. But it made me realize that how this shallow breathing had me get into this loopy, stressful thinking. And the Bible says, take no thought, or Jesus said, take no thought for tomorrow. And so I had to begin to train my brain and my breathing at the same time to get out of fight, flight, or freeze mode and to slow down. And so what I started to do then is I set an alarm on my phone every couple of hours. And when that alarm goes off, whether, I get in my car and it's been going off for a while, I just stop. And they told me, these angelic beings told me to stop, drop, and roll. And I was like, that's funny. That's what we were taught when we were in grade school if there was a fire. And I began to understand that my brain literally was on fire. That's why they were blowing on it. That's why they were telling me to do the breath work. I needed to stop, drop what I was doing, and regulate my breath, and take no thought, and get to that point of being in the void or no thought, to allow myself to ride on the high places, like Isaiah 58 says, that God causes us to ride on the high places. And so I have been on this journey of unhabituating myself and forcing my hand at being out of fight, flight, or freeze. And there are tools that I've found that have been very helpful. But in the essence of not making this video too long, I'm going to post some videos down below, and I'm going to continue to share with you what my experiences have been and what I have found to be very helpful. So I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I would love it if you have questions, and if there are things that you want me to expand or expound on, I would do that too. So until next time, I'm really excited to bring you new videos, but until then, be blessed.